My fellow Nigerians, as your future president, today I want to comment on the post presidential election situation in our eastern neighbor, the Republic of Cameroon. As I explained in my speech endorsing Issa Chiroma and urging Cameroonians to vote against the incumbent 92-year-old Paul Biya ahead of the October 12, 2025 elections, I did so because proactive engagement with our neighbors, especially strategically important ones like Cameroon, will be a central pillar of my foreign policy. Also, one major way to change the narrative on good governance and the respect for democratic norms in Africa is for African governments to publicly hold each other accountable, using, that is, the African Union's African Peer Review Mechanism, APRM, especially on crucial issues like respecting the will of the people as expressed through democratic elections. Now, before anyone uses the biblical first remove the log from your eyes on me as a Nigerian, I am absolutely aware that our current democratic situation in Nigeria, with Bola Tinubu apparently bullying his way to a dominant party state to make up for his numerous governance failures in an effort to boost his chances in the 2027 election, especially after the massive rigging against Peter Obi that took place in 2023, just doesn't qualify us to lecture others about democracy. But these democratic shortcomings should be blamed on former President Muhammadu Buhari and Tinubu. I'm not responsible for their actions and inactions. I can only speak for myself and what I intend to do when I become president of Nigeria. With that, let me talk about the situation in Cameroon. It has been one whole week since the presidential elections in Cameroon, yet the results have not been announced. It took just 2 days for the results of Senegal's 2024 presidential elections, which also had an incumbent, that's Macky Sall, to be announced. Similarly, Gabon's 2025 presidential election results were announced in 24 hours. Why should Cameroon take 14 or 15 days to announce the results of an election involving 8 million or less voters? The official explanation about the final counting of votes by one vote counting commission is just silly. Votes were counted at the polling stations and the results have been made public, which is why the warning by Biya's Interior Minister Paul Tanganji against the declaration of unofficial results is just stupid. This isn't sheer incompetence only. Clearly, the government is trying to manipulate the results and rig the elections. Unfortunately for them, actual results sheets posted by voters on a citizens' elections coalition platform, resultatdupeuple.com, that's the people's results, clearly show Issa Chiroma in an unassailable lead. For example, out of about 8 million registered voters, the actual number of voters will be less. As of October 15, out of the 21,500 election results sheets that had been uploaded, representing a total of over 3.5 million votes, Chiroma was in the lead with 75.39% of the votes, with Biya coming a distant second with just about 16.61%. Those trends partly explain why Chiroma rightly declared victory on October 14. Also, Chiroma has today, October 19, announced that he will publish the original polling station reports validating his victory. In fact, Chiroma has also said that some of Biya's ministers and other government officials have privately congratulated him for his victory. I'd advise them to make it public. It is therefore abundantly clear to me, and indeed to many others, that Issa Chiroma won Cameroon's 2025 presidential elections hands down. So I congratulate him and urge Biya, who has been president for 43 years and often governed in absentia, especially from Switzerland, for many years, to concede as soon as possible. It is pointless to wait for the formal announcement of the results. In Nigeria, our own President Goodluck Jonathan famously called his predecessor, the late President Muhammadu Buhari, back in 2015 to concede before the results were announced by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Indeed, as Foliga Lang, the leader of one of Cameroon's political parties, noted in his congratulatory message to President-elect Chiroma on October 16, Biya himself once congratulated a foreign leader based on early result trends. So yes, this is Biya's last chance to bow out with any iota of honor. Civil unrest in Cameroon, such as what happened in Kenya after the disputed 2007 presidential elections, which led to about 1,000 deaths and 250,000 displaced people, is in no one's interest, including Nigeria's, which currently hosts thousands of refugees and asylum seekers fleeing the conflict in English-speaking Cameroon. We are already seeing and hearing reports about protests, including violent ones, breaking out in various parts of Cameroon. That's really dangerous, especially because parts of English-speaking Cameroon are still technically at war. Also, President-elect Chiroma is from Garoua, the hometown of Cameroon's first president, Amadou Ahidjo, who died in exile after being sentenced to death in absentia for, as he was accused at the time, masterminding the 1984 failed coup d'etat against Biya, whom he had handed over power to back in 1982. Now, if we are being honest, we can all clearly see the real danger here. And as everyone knows, it is always better to prevent a conflict, especially one that could be bloody, than to clean up after it sadly happens. Indeed, some young men in Garoua have organized themselves into a presidential security unit to protect and accompany President-elect Chiroma to Cameroon's capital, Yaoundé. We all know what could happen if such a group were to be confronted by forces loyal to Biya. So yes, Biya must concede and bow out of power peacefully. Enough is enough. If Biya doesn't bow out quietly, I urge all regional and international stakeholders with real or perceived leverage over the Biya regime, including in particular the governments of Switzerland, France, and the United States, to impose severe financial and travel sanctions on Biya, the Secretary General of the Presidency, Ferdinand Gongo, and all other top officials loyal to Biya. Taking such actions to compel the Biya regime to respect the will of the Cameroonian people will prevent this very delicate situation from potentially escalating into avoidable violence and bloodshed. Meanwhile, given China's significant business interests in Cameroon and their preference for stability, and knowing they don't favor imposing sanctions, I urge the Chinese government to reach out to Biya and advise him to step down. Ultimately, I hope I have sent a strong signal that Nigeria, when I am president, will proactively promote good governance and the respect for democratic rule in Africa. First, by being exemplary, and then by using the African peer review mechanism to publicly hold our African peers accountable. May God bless President-elect Chiroma, Issa Chiroma. May God bless Cameroon, and may God bless the Nigeria-Cameroon relationship.